Hello, I'm Bernard Hickey from interest.co.nz and welcome to a special investing report brought to you in association with the Bank of New Zealand, where today we look at the announcement from Fairfax Media that it's planning to float Trade Me on the NZX. It may also be listed on the ASX too, but this would be a real shot in the arm for the NZX, which has lacked a variety of listings and big companies with lots of customers that investors can get interested in. Now, analysts say that Trade Me may be worth up to 1.5 billion in total, but Fairfax Media is planning to float only 30 to 35% of it. The Australian media company, which owns newspapers on both sides of the Tasman, plans to use the proceeds to repay debt and to allow it to pay bigger dividends in future. The announcement follows a big loss, 400.9 million Australian dollars for the year. That's after it wrote down the value of its newspaper assets by $650.7 million. Now, Fairfax shares are up this afternoon by around 2%, but only up to 77.5 Australian cents. Remember, back in 2007, Fairfax's shares were up over $4 a share. Now, that was back when David Kirk, the former All Black captain, was the chief executive of Fairfax Media. And in 2006, he was behind the takeover of Trade Me by Fairfax Media. Since then, he's been ousted, but an interesting thing about today's announcement, David Kirk will return as the non-executive chair of Trade Me. And we understand that Sam Morgan, the founder of Trade Me, will also be on the board. Now, since Fairfax Media bought Trade Me in 2006, its EBITDA, its earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortisation, trebled from around about 20 to 30 million to around $90 million. That means it's making earnings, profits perhaps, of around about $1.5 to $2 million a week. Now that means that Trade Me looks like being the biggest IPO on the NZX since Vector in 2005. Back then, the Auckland Electricity Consumer Trust sold a quarter of Vector onto the market for $593 million. Now, if Trade Me was worth $1.5 billion, which is what some of the analysts say, and a third of it is floated to the New Zealand Stock Exchange, about $500 million would be raised. Now, this would be the biggest float on the stock exchange from a customer point of view, in terms of the number of customers, the breadth of the size of the company, since Contact in 1999. Back then, $1.1 billion was raised in that float. Trade Me has about 2.8 million customers, so there'd be no problems understanding the company. And a float like this would really give the NZX a boost. Not to mention give plenty of outlets for KiwiSaver funds to invest in. We'll all see the figures and the details of the float in the months to come to see whether it's actually worth whatever it's going to be charging. But certainly it's big news for the New Zealand stock market and for the investment scene generally. I'm Bernard Hickey. That was a special investing report brought to you in association with Bank of New Zealand.